love the Z Flip 4, but I wanted to try something else this year, that being this, the Motorola Razr Plus. And this screen is amazing. This is what really drew me to it. It's so cool, but it's just simply not enough for me to keep it. I'm getting rid of it, and here's why. Moving on to the big stuff immediately, the hinge is the worst hinge I've ever felt in a foldable device in multiple different ways. One way that's noticeable when you're opening it halfway is that there is just a ton of slop in the mechanism. This is me tapping it with basically as little force as possible, and it is just moving significantly. Just does not feel correct. You won't notice that if you're opening it all the way, but you will notice a different issue, especially if you're opening up a little quickly. Sometimes you'll feel, sometimes you'll even slightly hear it creaking or squeaking the hinge a bit. Even when it's closed, there's a little bit of side-to-side play on the upper screen, so that even when you're doing something simple, just like adjusting the volume, when it's closed, you'll feel a little bit of movement, and it just does not feel like a premium product. I haven't heard anybody else mention this, at least, the popular reviewers. So there's a chance I just got a lemon, but I'm just reporting on my experience, and it's not been good. I don't play games on my phone, with one exception, that being Pokemon Go. Yes, I'm one of those. And even after playing some shorter sessions, which I'm considering short, being around 10 to 15 minutes, especially outside, of course, this thing heats up like crazy. I have not had a phone heat up like this in years, so I don't know really what's going on. Granted, I am running the game at an uncapped frame rate, which means that it's running as fast as it possibly can. But when I had the same settings on my Flip 4, it never got this warm, to the point where I need to use a case when I'm playing just to give my hand a bit of a buffer from the heat. It's not great. Speaking of cases, there are no first-party cases from Motorola, and at launch there was basically nothing to choose from. I think I found a total of 3 different cases relatively locally, but they were all in carrier stores and of course overpriced to hell. Now, 1 to 2 months later, it's not as bad, but comparing the selection that we have now to the selection that is already available for the Z Flip 5, it is just almost entirely crazy. If you like cases, if you like switching it up and having variety, I cannot recommend the Razr Plus. Go with the Flip 5, you will be much happier on that front. These last two aren't as big of a deal as the other ones, but I'll throw them in here anyway. The cameras, I think the hardware is fine. The processing is just a little bit different than what Samsung does. It's not inherently bad, but the consistency is kind of weird with third-party applications. If you're just using the normal camera application, it's totally fine. It'll process it, relatively well. But if you're using third-party apps like Snapchat, that gets processed in a totally different way, and the colors look way off. I've never noticed that with my Z Flip 5 or any other phone that I've had, for that matter. So I'm not sure what's going on, if that is an app issue, because other apps like Instagram Stories, for example, seems to work okay. It's still not quite the same comparing it to the camera app. It's a little bit different, but the Flip just seems a lot more consistent regardless of what app you're using to actually take that photo in. At home, I really like wirelessly charging, and I'm glad this has it. And I say that because the previous Razrs actually didn't have it at all. So it's nice, but it's slow, especially compared to the Z Flip 4 and 5. Those charge literally twice as fast wirelessly. So kind of explains why I've been consistently disappointed picking this up from the charger and just seeing that it's not as charged as I kind of expected. I'm sure eventually I would have adjusted to the curve, but it's just kind of a bummer going from something faster to something slower in that regard. Genuinely, there were so many things I liked about this phone. The outside screen, of course, has to be the number one thing. The gestures for the camera, for the flashlight, they're so fun to use. The crease is less noticeable. The software is more like stock Android, so fun. But the negatives just outweigh it just so much. The hinge, the number one thing about a folding phone. If it's starting its life in this condition, I cannot imagine it's going to wear well. I just don't know what else to tell you. I'm going to be getting rid of this. I'm probably going to be picking up a Flip 5, and we'll go from there. If you have any questions or just want to throw in your experiences with any of these phones, leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to respond there. I'm working on some updates to some of the other projects, so subscribe to the channel for that. That's about it. Thanks for watching. See ya.